Have you ever felt someone slipping away, not with a goodbye, but with silence, distance, and a change you can't quite explain? They don't say it outright, but something feels different, colder. If you've ever been in love with someone who slowly stopped loving you, then you already know. Before they walk away, they always show you two things first. When someone starts to lose love for you, one of the very first signs you'll notice is emotional distance. It's not always loud. In fact, it's often quiet. So quiet that at first you might not even recognize it. But then something starts to feel off. Conversations that once felt easy now feel forced. The warmth that used to be in their tone is suddenly replaced with cool politeness. They're still there, physically. They're still replying to your texts, showing up to plans, maybe even smiling. But emotionally, it's like they're somewhere else. It starts with the little things. They no longer ask about your day with the same curiosity. When you tell a story, they might respond with a nod or a half-hearted, "That's nice," instead of asking follow-up questions or getting excited with you. You start to notice that when you share something vulnerable, something that would normally bring you closer, their reaction is flat, or worse, indifferent. The space where connection used to live is now filled with silence or surface-level talk. You'll notice a subtle but real shift in their presence. They're there, but they're not with you. Before, they may have looked into your eyes when you spoke. Now they glance at their phone. Before, they sat close, leaned in, wanted to hold your hand. Now they pull away, just slightly, enough to feel it but not enough to call it out. It's not overt. That's what makes it so confusing. You find yourself wondering if you're imagining it, if maybe they're just tired or stressed, but deep down, you feel the gap growing. You might bring it up, gently. Maybe you ask if everything's okay, if they're feeling all right. They'll probably say they're fine. And maybe they are fine, just not with you anymore. They might not even realize it themselves yet, but their heart is pulling away and their behavior is following. Emotional distance isn't always about anger or conflict. Sometimes it's just the absence of effort, the slow retreat of intimacy, the quiet letting go of connection. What makes emotional distance so painful is that it often happens before any breakup conversation. So you're left sitting in a relationship that looks the same on the outside, but feels completely different on the inside. You remember how they used to talk to you, how they used to care, how they used to show up emotionally. And now you're left with someone who feels like a stranger in familiar clothing. And the hard part is, people don't always distance themselves because they're cruel. Sometimes they're confused. Sometimes they don't know how to say what they're feeling. Sometimes they're scared to admit the love is fading, even to themselves. So instead of having that painful conversation, they emotionally check out. They put up a wall. Not always out of malice, but out of fear or uncertainty. But to you, that wall feels cold and you start to feel alone even when they're right beside you. You might start questioning yourself. What did I do? Did I change? Is it my fault? But often, it's not about anything you did. It's about where they are, emotionally, where their heart is, or isn't. Emotional distance is one of the first red flags that love is slipping away. And while it might not be loud or obvious at first, if you trust your instincts, you'll feel it. You'll feel the emptiness in conversations that used to be full. You'll feel the space growing between two people who used to be close. And even if no one says it out loud, your heart will start to understand something's changed. When someone begins to lose love for you, one of the clearest early signs is a noticeable decrease in communication. This isn't just about how often they call or text. It's about the quality, the energy, and the intention behind those interactions. At first, the change can be subtle. You might find that they take longer to respond to your messages. What used to be instant replies turn into delayed responses, sometimes hours or even days later. And when they do reply, the messages are shorter, colder, and stripped of emotion. The emojis disappear, the affectionate nicknames vanish, and the excitement you used to feel from their words begins to fade. You start to notice that you're always the one initiating the conversation. You're the one sending the good morning texts, asking how their day went, checking in to see how they're feeling. And while they might still respond, there's a lack of reciprocation. They no longer ask you how you're doing. They no longer follow up with thoughtful questions or share the little details of their day like they used to. The dialogue turns one-sided, like you're talking at them instead of with them. This shift can be deeply confusing. You remember how they used to light up when they talked to you, how conversations could go on for hours without ever feeling forced. But now, there is silence, or worse, there's small talk, dry, mechanical, like they're just going through the motions. You begin to wonder if they're busy, distracted, or maybe dealing with something personal. And while that could be true, the consistency of their disengagement tells a different story. It's not about a bad day anymore, it's about a pattern. Sometimes they'll use excuses to cover the distance. They'll say things like, "I've just been really busy," or "I'm overwhelmed with work." And while those explanations might be valid in some cases, they don't hold up when the disconnection continues week after week. The truth is, when people care, they make time, even in small ways. A quick message, a short call, a simple coffee. But when love starts to fade, so does that effort. The sense of urgency, the desire to stay connected begins to die out. You may also notice that the tone of your interactions changes. They become more formal, less personal. There's less laughter, fewer inside jokes, and no more random messages just to say they miss you. They might avoid deep conversations altogether, keeping things surface level to avoid any emotional intimacy. And if you try to bring up something important or heartfelt, they might brush it off, change the subject, or even shut down completely. This kind of withdrawal can feel like emotional starvation. You're reaching out, trying to connect, trying to keep the thread between you alive, but all you're getting back is minimal effort. It's like they're no longer interested in knowing you, not the way they used to. The things you used to share so openly now feel like they're falling into a void. And the hardest part is, you remember what it felt like when they were invested, when they wanted to hear every detail about your day, when they called just to hear your voice, when texting each other was exciting, not exhausting. So you hold on to the past, hoping maybe they'll come back to that place. But deep down, you start to realize the gap in communication isn't an accident. It's a reflection of where their heart is now. The less they reach out, the clearer it becomes they're pulling away, one word at a time. When someone begins to lose love for you, one of the clearest signs is a sudden or gradual lack of effort. In the beginning of a relationship, effort is natural. It shows up in small gestures. Text to check in, planning dates, remembering little things about you, or simply making you feel seen and important. But when feelings begin to fade, effort is usually the first thing to go. It's not always dramatic. Often, it slips away quietly, so subtly that you don't notice it until it starts to hurt. First, it may be as simple as them no longer planning ahead. Where they used to be excited to see you, now they're always too busy, or they wait for you to make all the plans. They stop putting thought into the moments you share, special dates, thoughtful gifts, or just staying up late talking. All of it starts to disappear. You begin to feel like you're the only one trying to hold things together, the only one initiating anything meaningful. You find yourself chasing their attention, their presence, and eventually even their affection. There's a certain energy people bring into a relationship when they truly care. You can feel it in how they look at you, how they touch you, how they listen. But when that love begins to fade, all that energy drains away. Where they once leaned in, now they pull back. Where they once showed curiosity about your thoughts and dreams, now they offer blank stares or distracted nods. The effort that once made the relationship feel alive and intimate gets replaced with passivity and indifference. You might notice they no longer surprise you, not just with gifts or grand gestures, but even with their time or attention. They stop doing the little things that used to make you smile. Maybe they forget your favorite coffee order, or maybe they stop sending the just because messages. It's not about forgetting facts. It's about forgetting you. Forgetting to show you that you matter, that you're still worth showing up for. When someone loves you, they find 100 little ways to show it. When that love begins to fade, those ways disappear. Even physical closeness starts to change. Maybe they no longer reach for your hand, hug you as tightly, or kiss you with the same warmth. Affection becomes routine, or worse, it disappears altogether. They may still go through the motions, but the sincerity behind them is gone. You can tell the difference between someone who wants to be close to you and someone who's just fulfilling an obligation. But physical connection weakens because the emotional investment is slipping away. You may try harder to compensate for their withdrawal. You might start doing even more, hoping that your effort will inspire theirs again. But eventually, you begin to feel the weight of the imbalance. You're the one giving, planning, fixing, while they remain emotionally distant and disengaged. You start to feel unappreciated, maybe even unwanted. And what's worse is the doubt that creeps in. You wonder if you're asking for too much, when in reality, you're just asking for the kind of love and effort you once had from them. Effort is a reflection of how much someone values the relationship. It's what keeps connection alive through challenges and change. When someone begins to lose love for you, they no longer feel motivated to try. Not because they're necessarily angry or upset, but because their heart isn't in it anymore. And when the heart checks out, the effort does too. What's left is a relationship that may still look intact on the outside, but on the inside, it's slowly falling apart from the lack of care. When someone starts to fall out of love with you, one of the most telling signs is a shift in their priorities. The things and people they used to put behind you suddenly start to come first. It's not always obvious at first. It might begin with them canceling plans more often, or saying they're too tired to talk or meet up. You understand. Everyone gets busy. But then it happens again and again. Slowly, it becomes a pattern. The time they used to carve out for you now goes elsewhere, to work, to friends, to hobbies, to their phone, anything but you. Where once you were the person they wanted to share their news with first, now you find out about their life through social media or secondhand. They used to light up at the thought of doing things together, planning trips, attending events, even just staying in and doing nothing. Now they seem more interested in doing those things alone or with others. You start to feel like an afterthought, like you're always waiting for a gap in their schedule instead of being part of it. It's not just about time, it's about energy. They give their best to everything and everyone else, to their job, their friends, their interests. And when it comes to you, they have nothing left. Conversations feel rushed or distracted. They're always on their way out or multitasking while talking to you. You used to be their safe space, the one they focused on and opened up to. But now it feels like they're mentally somewhere else, even when they're physically with you. You notice they stop including you in future plans. You hear them talk about what they want to do next month or next year, and your name isn't part of the picture. They used to dream out loud with you, talk about what life would look like together down the road. Now their future sounds more like their future, not yours. It's as if you've been quietly removed from the equation, without a conversation, without any explanation. Sometimes the shift in priorities is small and gradual. Other times, it's sudden. One day they're present, involved, committed. The next, they're constantly busy, unavailable, or indifferent. You might ask what's going on, and they'll say, nothing's wrong. But their actions tell a different story. Because when someone cares, they make you a priority, even during chaos. When someone's love is fading, you become optional. They might still say they love you. They might still claim that you matter. But love is not just what people say, it's what they do. And when someone stops making time for you, stops showing up for you, stops putting you first in even small ways, it shows you exactly where you stand. You might try to justify it. You might tell yourself they're just busy, that they'll come back around. But deep down, you can feel the shift. You can feel yourself sliding down their list of importance. What used to be shared space now feels like borrowed time. You no longer feel like a team, but like an outsider looking in. You start noticing how available they are for others, how quickly they return a friend's call, how eager they are to attend someone else's event, how excited they get about things that don't involve you. And you wonder where that same energy went when it comes to you. The change in their priorities isn't always dramatic, but it is undeniable. It shows up in their choices, their habits, and the space they make or don't make for you in their life. You begin to see that love isn't about grand declarations, but about consistent actions. And when those actions no longer reflect love, it's a sign that their heart may be drifting somewhere else. When someone begins to lose love for you, one of the most painful signs is when their attitude shifts from care to indifference or even frustration. In the beginning, love is filled with patience. The things you did that were quirky or even mildly annoying were once met with a smile or a light-hearted joke. But when love starts to fade, that same behavior suddenly seems to irritate them. The laughter turns to sighs, the gentle teasing becomes cold criticism, and the space that once felt warm and forgiving starts to feel tense and uncomfortable. You begin to notice that their tolerance for your flaws decreases dramatically. Where they once saw imperfection as part of your charm, now they act like it's something they have to deal with. You might make a small mistake, say something slightly off, or forget a minor detail, and instead of brushing it off, they act like it's a burden. They may roll their eyes, give you a sharp tone, or withdraw entirely. And the worst part is, you don't even know what you did wrong. Everything suddenly feels like a test you didn't realize you were taking. Their reactions become more negative overall. They seem irritated more often, quicker to anger, or less interested in resolving conflict. In the past, if you had a disagreement, they would want to talk it through, to understand you, to meet you halfway. Now they might dismiss your concerns or avoid the conversation altogether. And when they do engage, their tone can be cold or passive-aggressive. Start to feel like you're walking on eggshells, trying not to trigger another wave of frustration or disinterest. But sometimes, what hurts even more than frustration is indifference. Frustration, at least, shows some level of emotional investment. Indifference, on the other hand, is emotional silence. It's when they stop caring about how you feel, stop responding to your emotions, and stop making the effort to connect. You could be hurting in front of them, and they'd barely react. You could share something important, and they'd nod without truly listening. That spark in their eyes, that instinct to comfort and care, it's gone. You become emotionally invisible to them. You might try harder to reach them. Maybe you ask questions, try to open up, suggest spending more quality time together. But instead of meeting you halfway, they pull further back. They might respond with minimal interest, or worse, with annoyance, as if your need for connection is an inconvenience. The warmth you once felt in their presence is replaced with a chill. Even in moments that should be intimate or meaningful, there's a sense of emotional absence. And yet, despite the coldness, they might still go through the motions. They might still say, "I love you," or keep up appearances, but the emotional weight behind those words is missing. It feels like they're doing it out of obligation, not genuine feeling. You can sense that they're no longer emotionally present, and it creates a silent ache inside you. You feel lonely next to someone who used to make you feel like the most important person in the world. That shift from being the person they adored to the person who now irritates them or leaves them unmoved is brutal. You start to question yourself, wondering if you're doing something wrong, if you've somehow become less lovable. But the truth is, when someone's love starts to fade, their emotional investment fades with it. The empathy, the patience, the desire to connect, all of it starts to slip away. And in its place, you're left with a version of them that no longer sees you the same way. Not because you changed, but because their heart did. When someone starts to lose love for you, one of the final and most heartbreaking signs is a growing emotional unavailability. It's not that they're just busy or distracted, it's that they stop being open with their emotions, and they stop allowing you to be open with yours. You begin to feel like there's a wall between you, a thick, invisible barrier that wasn't there before. The intimacy that once flowed easily through conversation, affection, and emotional presence begins to dry up. Where they once made space for your feelings, now they seem uncomfortable or uninterested when you express them. You might try to talk to them about something that's bothering you or something you're going through, and instead of leaning in and listening, they shut down. They might give you short responses, change the subject, or even say things like, "I don't want to get into this right now." It leaves you feeling dismissed, like your emotions are no longer welcome. You start to feel like you're too much, like your vulnerability is a burden instead of something they once cherished. This kind of emotional distance can be more painful than any argument because it makes you feel completely alone, even in the relationship. At one point, you may have shared everything with them, your fears, your hopes, your childhood memories, your silly thoughts at 2 a.m. But now, when you speak, it feels like you're talking into a void. There's no reflection, no connection, no emotional feedback. They're physically present, but emotionally checked out. You start to hesitate before speaking up because you already know what's coming: disinterest, discomfort, or silence. The emotional safety that once existed between you has vanished. They also stop letting you into their inner world. You used to know how they were feeling without them having to say much. And when something was wrong, they'd come to you. Now they keep their thoughts and emotions to themselves. You can sense that something's off, but when you ask, they brush it off with vague answers like "I'm fine" or "don't worry about it." It's not that they're hiding something specific. They're just not letting you in anymore. Now you've been shut out of the part of them that once felt like home. Even during moments that should be emotionally rich, like an anniversary, a celebration, or a quiet evening together, they feel distant. They might go through the motions, smile when appropriate, say the right words, but the emotion behind it is missing. It feels like they're performing love instead of living it. You can tell when someone's heart is no longer in what they're doing, and the emotional flatness becomes impossible to ignore. This kind of withdrawal often leaves you second-guessing everything. You start to wonder if you're being needy, if you're expecting too much, or if you're imagining the distance. But deep down, you know what real emotional connection feels like, and you know when it's gone. Emotional unavailability is often the final stage of a fading relationship. It's when the other person stops showing up in the way that matters most. They might still be around, still sleep next to you, still make plans, but without that emotional presence, those things begin to feel hollow. You might find yourself grieving the relationship while you're still in it, mourning the closeness you once had, the openness, the laughter, the trust, because when emotional availability disappears, so does the foundation of intimacy. It's no longer just about communication, it's about connection. And once that connection breaks, love struggles to breathe. You're left with someone who used to hold your heart gently and now seems to barely notice it's even there. When someone starts to lose love for you, it doesn't always happen all at once. It shows up in small, quiet shifts that slowly add up. First, they stop being curious about you. Then the communication fades. The effort drops. You fall down their list of priorities. Their warmth turns into frustration, or worse, indifference. And finally, the emotional connection that once made you feel safe and seen disappears. These changes aren't just signs of a rough patch. They're signals that their heart may no longer be in it. It's painful to witness love fading in someone's actions, especially when the words haven't caught up to the truth yet. But recognizing these signs is the first step toward protecting your own peace, because you deserve a love that shows up, not just in the beginning, not just in words, but every day, in effort, in presence, and in care.